how can we weave that Biden clip in? How can we weave that Biden clip into our show? Do you want to?
Oh, you have a Biden clip?
Yeah, we have at the department store.
Okay. Well,
Where do you want to place that?
I don't know. We're going to start off talking about Biden. So.
Oh, okay. You got that, Christian? Okay, thank you. Thanks for eavesdropping. I guess we'll just do it right out of the... Oh, well, after the introduction.
Hello and welcome back. It's Talking Truth to Power, Nevada's Freedom Talk Radio. I'm your host, Brendan Traynor. And my co-host, Leland Faegre, who's having
seen
a coughing fit.
This much smoke before, ever? And
No.
No, I've never seen this much.
No, I've never seen orange skies like you see over San Francisco and Los Angeles.
What's changed meteorologically is that there's an onshore pattern that's cleaned out the air in the Bay Area and in Los Angeles, I understand.
Okay.
So it's pushing it this way. So we've got all their smoke now as well as our own.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Isn't that nice? Something
Yeah.
else. It looked like it was fog this morning. It was so thick.
President Trump was in Minden over the weekend, and he gave an outdoor rally. Hardly anybody wore masks. You notice that?
Uh-huh.
I'm sure you do, because he was basically trolling Governor Sisolak on that.
Sisolak.
Yeah. And so then he went on to California, and he met with the round table with Californian environmentalists.
I love that.
Yes.
Wasn't that great?
And they keep giving him the line that it's all climate change, instead of the fact that they're their forest management practices.
I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words. And yet, all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
Now, she has a certain Asperger
syndrome.
Character, doesn't she? Yeah. But it is extreme, and it sure is funny, isn't it?
But that's how they all sound.
Yeah.
When you cut away the excess emotionalism, that's and Governor Newsom puts out tweets saying climate change is the reason for the fires, so vote. Yeah. And people are tweeting him back. Twitter is wonderful that way because you can actually reply directly to the person, and they're quitting back. Well, we voted for you, didn't we? And we've been voting for years, and it's still the same. But one of them said to Trump, talked to him about global warming, and he said, he just smiled and said, "I think it's going to get cooler."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then the response was that the scientists don't think so, and then he retorted back, "Well, I don't think the scientists know what they're talking about."
Well, the scientists may know what they're talking about, but what they're talking about is being grossly exaggerated and misinterpreted by the climate change alarmists.
I just love going back through history and understanding that climate change is can be quite extreme,
right?
In periods of time. For example, there was ice on the Thames during little mini ice age.
The mini ice age.
Yeah. How do they explain that? There weren't any automobiles around in those days, so.
No, but the fact is that I think Trump is right because I read the science and I hear them saying that we are in a solar minimum. We're having much less solar activity, which will mean more cloud cover.
Actually cooling.
Yeah, so the clouds will help cool things off. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not going to brag and say that the the winter cold spell that we had right now is a sign of that, because that's just weather. I'm not going to be like the left and complain that every weather event is, signifies climate change. But it is going to happen.
They're going to have 10 years to pull this off.
Right. We're all going to be dead in 10 years.
They better hurry up, because they don't have a lot of time to pull this nonsense off.
Right. So so I think Trump was correct there, and he also was doing outreach to the Latinos. Mm-hmm. Biden is actually trying to catch up. Now, Biden is still ahead with the Latino vote, but the Latinos, especially Latino males, I understand, they kind of dig Trump. Yeah. And so he doesn't have to win the Latino vote, but if he just like the black vote, if he gets a significant improvement over Romney, then that would be a good thing.
Not to mention the blacks.
Right, the black people, right.
Yeah. I mean, if it comes anywhere close to that 30% support that Rasmussen has been reporting on over several months, then, it's really over. Mm-hmm. It really is a 46-state majority for Trump.
And also the LGBTQ people. I posted a video by a young LGBTQ singer named Ricky Rebel, and he's for Trump. And actually, the person, I can't think of his name, I apologize, but the person who heads #WalkAway, the Democrat,
yeah, right,
he's also gay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so, gay people earn above the median. The American median.
Yes,
they earn money.
They do.
And most of them want to keep as much of that money as they can, understandably. And they may not be so eager to vote for Biden as the Democrats think they will be, except for the extremists, Mm-hmm. Those that accuse anybody that questions anything about homosexuality or transsexuals, or, there are extremists there that are going to accuse you of being a phobic person at the slightest question of the orthodoxy. But for others that are independent thinkers and are voting for their own livelihoods, I think more of them than you can imagine are going to vote for Trump.
And that should be the basis for how you vote. That is a predicate for going to the polls, first of all, and actually setting up your future with a landscape that benefits hard work.
Right. And personal responsibility and private property. So, I think it might come down to whether, those who believe in a red wave are really looking at the riots and the how Trump is for law and order and how he is starting to quiet the riots, although they may be just driving to Washington,
Quiet
D.C.
the riots?
Yeah, quiet riot.
That's damn good. That's the writer in you.
But those who... our segment is up. We'll have to take this up after the break.
What are we going to talk about in the next break?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we can just continue on.
Would you like more energy? A photon sound beam may be the solution you need. A photon sound beam uses electrical energy to ionize gases that generate ozone and light.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Want to expand your advertising dollar? Sponsor this or any America Matters program by calling 775-827-8900, extension 2. Now, back to the show.
If you could take care, you were a quartermaster, you can sure and hell take care of running a, department store thing, where in the second floor of the ladies' department or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you
Well, no, I don't think I do know what you mean. But I'll be damned if I'm going to wait around for him to explain it to me. I mean, isn't that something? I mean, you think he has an acuity problem, mental acuity problem. I mean, apart from the fact that he just, what does a department store have to do with any discussion of any issue on the political landscape as we see it?
How did the quartermaster get in there?
Yeah. That's a doozy, and he's had a whole bunch of them, and we would like to think that he'd turn up at the debate, but I'm not thinking.
We're kind of skeptical he'll even show up for the 3 scheduled debates, never mind the 4-hour sit-down with Joe Rogan.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something?
Or even an hour with Step on All of Us at ABC. I mean, how could he survive that?
I don't know, because
you know the thing.
Yeah, and you see, if he has supplied responses to questions, which is what I think they're going to try to. This is what I think they're going to try to do. He's going to be they want to set up a debate where he can't leave his basement because he's afraid of the coronavirus. Mm. He's frightened of the coronavirus.
Well, he wears that mask even when he's 20 feet away from anybody.
And then if Trump doesn't accept that condition for the debate, then Trump's the mean guy for not allowing him to do the debate, and where he would be, it would be possible to supply him with answers on a teleprompter, I mean, all mischief that is possible would be possible under those circumstances. So I don't see how Trump could possibly permit that under the circumstances. And I think that's their only shot here, to participate in the debate, something like that.
Okay. But that it just seems that he cannot string together a coherent, I mean, his appearances are just so moderated, so controlled. The reporters are given softball questions. Most of the time he doesn't even take any questions. He just slouches off the stage after he gives a little speech.
He waves at empty fields.
Yes. He came off a plane and waved to his right when there was just an empty field there. The camera didn't show it.
And I think the day before, where he was in Delaware, in his basement, he came out to a field, an empty field. Mm-hmm. And I think he had 4 or 5 so-called reporters, in quote, around him in convenient 6 feet proximity to Biden, and they weren't allowed to ask questions. Mm-hmm. So what are they there for? Just as props.
Right. You have to take care of the cure. That will make the problem worse no matter what.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying.
Well, you have to vote for Trump.
Because, I can only, what did he say? What was the Biden quote? You got that one in there, Christian? I'll let you get that one up. But, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And I can't imagine that he could possibly wield any kind of a majority in the popular vote based on that.
Well, I know. And we would certainly like to think that there will be a red wave. And I would love to see these guys swept off the chessboard completely.
Yeah. Because if they ever get it, heaven help us.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to, the thing is, he is not a stalking horse for the far left. I mean, that slant is not working, and the Republicans should really give it up. He's a stalking horse for Wall Street, and he is not going to fundamentally change anything. He's going to make things worse. He's going to bring the Obama gang back into the White House, and he's going to increase the troops' presence in the Middle East and probably start a hot war in Syria. We don't know exactly what he's going to do. He's going to have all those anti-Russian fanatics surrounding him.
Well, it's a reversal of globalism is what they are afraid of.
Right.
They keep talking about the socialist mantra of the party, and certainly there are no, old school Democrats left in the party any longer. So they have to go to that fringe left. They have to go to the Visigoths and the violent
By old
mobs.
school, you mean like class and economic issues?
I'm thinking, any old school Democrat, the Kennedys, for example.
Right.
That there's nobody there. There's nobody left there. So they have to go all the way over for what they can possibly get, and I think that's their fringe option that they're trying to play out here. But violence doesn't work to I mean, they've lost the middle ground, basically, is what I think the Democrats have done here. They've lost that middle, and so there's nobody left, except that far left.
And Trump is gaining again with the seniors. Now, he is vulnerable on the COVID-19, so if COVID-19 is the major issue, say, for example, we do get a second wave, and the deaths spike up again. Hopefully we won't. Hopefully we will build, despite the protests about it, we will build up herd immunity and not have that. But if we do, and then that might hurt Trump badly.
Which I think that came up in the town hall last night on ABC, didn't it?
I think so.
That subject matter, yeah. I didn't see it, but...
Well, it's coming up in the surveys. I mean, it's like I said, unfortunately... According to the surveys, and the surveys might be junk, but according to the surveys that they're taking, if you're a senior citizen and others, and you're really worried about COVID-19, they actually favor the lockdown politicians, even though, Governor Cuomo actually killed thousands of them by forcing them into these contagious nursing homes.
As many as 10,000.
Because he showed empathy, and he was on TV every day. He was talking about it. Even if he was dead wrong, he was at least talking about it, and people give them points for that.
And Trump converted Madison Square Garden and brought that hospital ship up there, and then he didn't use it.
Right.
He wouldn't want to give Trump any credit for being involved philanthropically with this crisis, and so he chose to put them back into the nursing home, which was one of the first messages, the first things we learned about this virus. It was how vulnerable the elderly were.
Right.
I mean, that guy he's a mass murderer. That's what Cuomo is.
Yeah,
he's a mass murderer.
I know, but and again, hopefully the American people will start to see through that, but I think they have to hit the RNC should be hitting on that, and they should be telling people that.
Well, he said after the Minden arrangement down there that he's going to take the gloves off. I don't know whether he said that in Henderson or Minden, but he's going to take the gloves off.
I'd like to see it. Yes.
Yeah. It's time.
Yeah.
And he's got 7 weeks to do it. 48 days as of today.
Right.
But I know this: Joe Biden I'm going to beat Joe Biden.
I'm prepared to say that I have a record of over 40 years and that I'm going to beat Joe Biden.
So there it is. That's exactly what's going to play out. So
in the Harris administration with Joe Biden as president.
And that wasn't a mistake.
No.
That was deliberate, and they were getting a sense of how the rank and file feel about that,
It's the Obama, Hollywood, Chicago intersection, political and cultural intersection, that if they win, that's who's going to come to power. And it's terrifying to me. Although Netflix is, the Obama network is coming under a lot of scrutiny over their Cuties film, and it's not something that I think can be censored, but it's certainly something that should be culturally
part of
discussed.
The discussion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it really should be. And, it happens that they're in the middle of it, and I don't think it is that it impresses their own. That's the problem they have. There's nobody there that's impressed by this. I mean, this is one of the... You think back to Dukakis, you think back to McGovern, and maybe Mondale, because those were all landslides. But this has to be the worst. Of course, you start with a candidate like Biden, and you don't really have much to go on, but it's poorly managed. That's the best thing you can say about it. They don't have a lot going for them, but I mean, honestly, it's dreadful to watch.
Yeah. Well, like I say, the law and order is working. The riots in Lancaster, where that deranged man attacked the policeman with a knife and was shot down and causing riots. $1 million bail for all those arrested in the riots.
And Kamala, going back several weeks, was one of those who were arranging the bail money for some of these people in the riots.
And Biden's team,
yeah.
But Kamala Harris explicitly urge people to contribute.
And I don't think the Trump administration has an ad yet pointing to that. And I think
they have that ad of her laughing when the fire's burning behind her.
Yeah, but I mean referencing that they were actually appealing for money to bail these people out.
Mm-hmm.
I think that ad has to come out. We have to see that.
Okay, and we have a lot more to talk about. I'd like to talk after the break a little bit about Kyle Rittenhouse and the criminal charges that were explicitly filed. And if you believe in the right to self-defense, you should be pretty angered by how they're trying to railroad this young man.
Well, that's an antiquated thing to be considering, I think, self-defense, the Second Amendment, Well, that's not something we should be concerned
In Milwaukee, there were Black Lives Matters outside a private residence. The man had a shotgun inside his house, and he pointed at them, and the police came and arrested him, the owner.
Yeah, more and more examples like that all the time. Stay.
Hi, I'm Kelly Rush, CEO of America Matters Media, here to tell you about
this overload.
Shannon Lawson here. Join us for the Nevada Radio Roundup, Fridays at 2 p.m. A good news variety show all about the local scene. The Nevada Roundup, Friday at 2.
Unable to listen to the whole show? A recording of today's program will be available later today. Visit americamatters.us and click on the podcast link. Now, back to the show.
Hello, welcome back to Talking Truth to Power, Nevada's Freedom Talk Radio. I'm your host, Brendan Traynor, and my co-host, Leland Faegre. And we wanted to talk a little bit about the actual charges that were filed against Kyle Rittenhouse, the young man who was caught up in the Kenosha riots and had a rifle with him and killed 2 people and wounded another as they were attacking him. And what's interesting about the charges is 3 counts of first-degree murder. Mm-hmm. And the DA published a probable cause statement, and we learned a few more things because the video that showed the death of the first person, Mr. Rosenbaum, was not very clear. But the district attorney accepts the testimony of the Daily Caller cameraman McGinnis, who was present, and he was the one that took off his shirt and tried to give first aid to Rosenbaum. But we show that Rosenbaum first encountered Kyle across the street, and then Kyle broke away from him and ran across the street to this auto repair parking lot. And then Rosenbaum followed him and threw something at him, which landed behind him. It appeared to have substance. It was in a plastic bag, but it could have been a brick or something in that bag because he did throw it quite a bit. And then he continued on to him, and somebody had fired a shot into the air, mm-hmm. And so Kyle must have heard that shot. And then
I think everybody heard that shot.
Yeah. And then as Rosenbaum advanced, Kyle fired a warning shot into the ground in front of Rosenbaum. Mm. But that did not deter him. He kept coming. And McGinnis' testimony confirms that Rosenbaum was trying to take away his rifle. So then Kyle looks like he fired 6 more times. 1 shot completely missed.
Well, the video reveals that.
Right.
You can see him trying to...
Right. But the autopsy, at least the preliminary, I don't know if it's the official autopsy, 1 shot missed him completely, and several shots grazed him. I think the head wound that everybody's talking about was a graze wound, but it was the wound that killed him was a wound to the kidney, the internal organs, I believe. And so even though he was now even the district attorney for Kenosha is testifying that he was not the instigator, that Rosenbaum advanced on him several times. And, of course, it gets even more clear after that when the mob is after him. He's running down the street. Somebody hits him in the back of the head. He stumbles. While he's on the ground, somebody delivers a flying kick to his head. Mm-hmm. And then the Huber, the second person that was killed, comes at him and with his skateboard, and his skateboard hits him in the shoulder and or head. And, the district attorney's report tries to downplay this. Like, he said the skateboard contacted his...
Contacted him?
Yes. like somebody else moved the skateboard and somehow it magically contacted him.
Right. It's like magic.
Yeah, I know. And so, and then, Kyle shot him once, and that one shot went directly through his heart. That was a kill shot. And then the third person came upon him and put his hands up initially, and Kyle lowered his weapon. Mm-hmm. Then he came on him again, and he had a gun in his hand, and Kyle fired again and destroyed 90% of his bicep. Mm-hmm. And so he retreated after that. And, there's an attorney online that has gone over all this, and he scrubs the video, and
he's
you
very
can
good.
see it. Yeah,
he's very good.
You're talking about the same one, R&R Law?
I think that's his name, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it just doesn't make any sense why they would still be trying to put this young boy behind bars.
Because that's the narrative,
Yeah.
It has to be done.
Yeah.
And
it's all political.
That's not a democratic city, is it?
And they're going to tear a couple of years out of this young man's life.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll get off. But, the vagaries of the criminal justice system, I understand they have a law and order judge. That they drew a law and order judge that is known for harsh sentencing.
Would a change of venue benefit?
Yeah, or
Rittenhouse?
even, I think you're allowed one petition to try to change the judge too, if they feel that the judge might be biased. But
because Rittenhouse is actually a resident of Illinois, right?
Right.
Across the line there somewhere.
So and I hope that they're running a good defense on him because I know that he's got a defense team, and I hope they're covering all their the angles, because it would be a shame to put him through this. Now, that does not mean he absolutely should have been there. Perhaps, I think at this point we should, like the president said, leave it to the police. For example, the Proud Boys are said they're going to show up in Portland in a few days, and they're not a violent group, but if they're attacked, they will fight back.
They will, yeah.
Yeah. So that we could have more escalation.
It's
coming
been kind of
down the
quiet
line.
in Portland over the last few days, hasn't it?
Right. Well, like I said, a lot of people are finally being
Is it the
arrested.
fires?
Well, the fires.
They don't like to riot when
could be. Yeah,
with the
they
smoke.
don't want the smoke. Yeah, it hurts their
I think that's
environmental
what it is.
sensibilities.
Right.
Certainly. But so the who knows? But they've been having actual dance-offs instead of riots the last couple of nights. Or, there's a DHS memo that claims they found out that they are organized, and there are emails organizing these people. Uh-huh. Maybe they're driving to Washington, D.C. to get ready for the final showdown.
Next one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They've got 48 days to do it.
Right. So, so those who are most concerned about the riots are definitely going to vote for Trump. We know that there's a shortage of ammo in the country, and people are stocking up, and they're buying guns. Even liberals that have never bought a gun are buying a gun because it can come to your home. For example, in Milwaukee, there's a BLM agitator that is posting the names and addresses of Trump supporters on the web and urging people to go protest in front of their houses.
Coming to a neighborhood near you.
Right. So this thing could spread to the suburbs, which would probably be good for Trump if that happens, because he's supposedly he's vulnerable in the suburbs. But so those who are afraid of the riots are undoubtedly going to vote for Trump. those who are more afraid of COVID-19 might, despite all logic, go for Biden. So it's hard to tell, but I hope there'll be a red wave. I mean, I really do. But we have to be prepared, and we have to vote here in Nevada, because he could sure use our electoral votes here.
Well, he sure pulled them out of their homes this past weekend in
Yes.
Henderson and here in Minden. It was quite impressive.
Right. And in Las Vegas, Henderson. Yeah. So people are still showing, given the chance, they're going to show up. And Biden cannot draw a crowd, obviously. So
he waves at the ones that aren't there.
That aren't there. Yeah. So, and, you know, they say Harris is so popular. She never really drew a crowd when she ran.
I think they've kept her in a very low profile. Also, I don't see that she is of any real benefit. She's
raising money.
Well, yeah, to bail out the thugs that they've incarcerated, for one thing. Yeah, apparently she has that draw, and so. But I mean, how's that going to pull them into the polls? I don't see that either. She couldn't draw anybody into her own campaign, so she had to leave early.
Mm-hmm. But who knows if the woke crowd will warm up to her before November 4th. But like I said, so far it hasn't happened.
I think this is what we're witnessing here is sort of like a postseason professional sports league. In many instances in any given year, the postseason is more exciting than the actual final. And I think that's what we're watching right here.
And
Joe Biden is going to beat Joe Biden.
So will he even show up for the 3 debates? He's not going to show up. He's not going to accept the invitation to sit down for several hours with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, if you don't know him, he's a sometime comedian. He's also a sports promoter for the Octagon, you know, the wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And he is but he pioneered the long hour-and-a-half, 2-hour conversation with prominent people that he did very well on YouTube, and then he quit YouTube and moved over to Spotify. Some say most people think he did that because of the censorship that YouTube is being infected with. But
now, the cognitively challenged people, and I think this is fairly well known, whether it's dementia or any of its forms, have trouble with sundown. They're pretty alert in the mornings.
Oh, really?
And as the day wears on, they lose a lot of the acuity that they have at the beginning of the day. So these debates are supposed to be evening affairs.
Right.
That's another reason that it's going to be an interesting challenge for Joe Biden to develop any sort of headwind going into these events. I just don't see him turning up. That's how I see it.
You heard it here, folks.
Slice fresh sandwiches every day, made right before your eyes. The port of Subway
that accidentally started a wildfire. Sparks from dragging chains can start a wildfire. Spark a change, not a wildfire. Visit SmokeyBear.com. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
To join the conversation, call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now, back to the show.
Your host and our co-host, Leland Faegre.
Oh, we're going to do a Jews in the News?
Well, I think it's about time we did another segment.
I love it.
Okay.
I love the music that goes into it.
Right. And of course, we have to give the Anti-Defamation League mandated disclaimer that we know that Israel is our greatest ally and the only democracy in the Middle East, no matter what they tell you about Lebanon. And it is also, they don't throw gay people off the roofs in Israel.
That's right.
And we also humbly remember that whenever we observe Jews behaving badly, always and everywhere, we must remember it's actually our fault. Yeah. Yes, of course, because we're all neo-Nazis.
That's right.
The way I started off is that the U.S. intelligence agencies every few days are producing false claims about this or that hostile country, or hostile that we say, which are repeated without any attempt by the media to check the facts. So on the 27th of June, the New York Times and WAPO published the fake news that alleging Russian bounties for U.S. soldiers killed by the Taliban. 2 weeks later, the story has been thoroughly debunked, and the Democrats continue to use it to attack Trump. And the Republican Senator Sassy demanded that GRU agents be sent home to Russia in body bags.
Was that Norman Eisen's idea? Was this part of his
Well, we're finding out. Tucker Carlson did an example of him. There are several people that are involved, and I think what we're seeing is a slow motion color revolution in this country. And
they're using against us what they do abroad.
Abroad, exactly. And that is coordinated media disinformation and confusion. And
does CNN know this?
I don't know. Maybe we should ask Chris Cuomo or
MSNBC. Do they?
Yeah. So the combined with street action in the streets and demonstrations,
and how they treat them in the narrative.
Right, in the narrative. So some of these people, like Norm Eisen, actually worked on the impeachment, and as you show, he is an expert in regime change, color revolution. He's worked at the Brookings Institute, and we're seeing that the name of that think tank come up more and more as being a hotbed for stirring up this kind of regime change.
They were a recipient of the Steele dossier.
Right, exactly. They were connected to the Steele dossier. And Eisen was a counsel for the House Judiciary Committee during the impeachment. And the thing is, if you look at, he is a parent of the son, Eisen, of immigrant Jews who came to America from Central Europe, the Ukraine. And that is what we're seeing. You see it in Schiff, you see it in Goldman, the other main counsel for the Democrats during the impeachment. And, a minister, now he's a fundamentalist minister, so he's going to say crazy things like,
Who is Eisen?
No, not Eisen.
Oh.
A fundamentalist minister on the East Coast called it a Jew coup, the impeachment.
Yeah.
And he got in a lot of trouble for that, and probably, his type of religion is too far out for me. But the fact is, I mean, all religion is kind of far out for me.
Yeah, I was going to allow myself to be part of that.
But at any rate, then we have Vindman.
President Vindman?
Well, Defense Minister Vindman, Ukrainian Defense Minister, and he is the one. Byron York's new book, pretty much fingers him as the primary instigator of the Ukraine call and the whole impeachment thing. And, we've talked a little bit about the cultural influences here, and that people that Jewish immigrants from Eastern Europe and the Ukraine, they carry a lot of anti-Russian baggage with them that most Americans are not aware of. They're very powerful in Canada. In fact, the Canadian finance minister now, Victoria Freeland, I believe her name is the granddaughter of a Nazi collaborator in Eastern Europe. And, you can't blame the children for the sins of their parents, but the fact is she tried to cover it up in her biography. And they
might be something she wouldn't want to share.
Right. And, this Jewish resentment of Russia goes back 1,000 years to the, to the destruction of their Khazar Empire and their relationship with Russia. You'd have to read people like Solzhenitsyn or even the famous Russian author Dostoevsky. If you want to read what Dostoevsky thought of the Jewish people in Russia, you can go on YouTube and you can look at it, but you get a black screen and you can't share it with anybody. And it's just quotes that he wrote about the Jewish people in Russia and what they were like. And, it's hard to believe that this kind of ethnic hatred could continue on, but we're seeing it very much today. And we're seeing it in how much they dominate our political and media environment, but nobody can mention it. I mean, even Tucker can't. He can talk about liberals and he can mention names, but he cannot associate the strong cultural and social ties that identify these people as so much anti-Trump. Like Vindman. Vindman, of course, said he outed Trump's call, or he instigated the whole brouhaha, because he perceived that Trump was not following the long-established anti-Russian American foreign policy, right? And
he wasn't.
And he thought he's the one that should put a stop to anybody. The President
Vindman,
exactly, assuming a new foreign policy, and
there's a lot of them.
There is a lot of them.
He's one a high-profile one because he called himself out to this. But, look at this guy, Eisen. What do you have, 180 lawsuits that were filed against Trump before Trump even took office?
Right.
How do you do that?
I don't. They have armies of attorneys because, again, the Jewish culture, if you look at it as a survival mechanism, an evolutionary survival tactic, they have done this for 2,000 years, and they've been successful at it. Let's face it, especially in the West, what we call Europe and North America and South America. They have survived by extreme ethnic networking, endogamy, which is, rarely. It's getting a little bit better in America because we are a more secular country, but endogamy, even today, it is relatively rare compared to other ethnic groups to have a Jewish person marry a non-Jewish person. I mean, they marry within themselves. A study came out recently.
And they hire among themselves.
They do. Oh, yes. It's Gilad Atzmon again, who is a non-Zionist Jewish musician and author. He says when he went to Chicago one time and he got on the Jewish ethnic money machine, he called it.
Did he?
Where he got into real estate and he made a bunch of money because as soon as you are recognized as a Jewish person, the sky's the limit. Everything
doors open up.
Right, doors open up immediately.
It's the tribal thing.
It is tribal. It's not racial. The Jewish people are not a race; they're a tribe, and so we have to consider the fact that we're not allowed to consider the ethnic networking. A study came out this summer. Now, the Ashkenazi Jews are now the largest of the Jewish tribe. They're the ones that originally came from the steppes of Russia, the Khazar Empire, and then moved up and assimilated into Eastern European society. So there are only 25 million Jews in the world. They're supposedly slightly more than the Sephardic Jews, who had a different history. They arose in what is now Iran and moved up North Africa and into the Iberian Peninsula, and they got caught up with that whole culture. But the Ashkenazi Jews, probably about 15 million of them, they're all blood related. That's amazing. They're all blood related. It's out to like the 30th degree of cousinhood. but they're all blood related.
I never thought I'd ever hear that expression.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it seems weird because you can't say that about any other group that I can think of that has 15 million people, and yet their DNA is all blood related. And that blood is thicker than water. The whole Jewish religion is about the preservation and prosperity of the Jewish people.
Sure.
You know, they don't celebrate God unless he's helping the Jewish tribe, you know. There's nothing about God in a universal fashion like you have in Christianity and even in Islam. It's all about God's relationship to the chosen people. And everybody else is second to that. So it's something Americans have got to think about, according to us.
According to Talking Truth to Power?
Yeah, you've got to be able to at least talk about it and try to find some solutions that are not going to make us worse than what they are.
Well, that's what we're doing here on
Talking
the show.
Truth to Power. Yeah.
We'll do it again next week.
Right.